I'm Linda Kay Gifford, and what is going on with my hair? All right, slapped a ponytail in there. Hi, um, welcome to the SPADES CSA workshops. You know that you may know that I've been doing Those Nasty Women, and I own thosenastywomen.com. And in light of recent political unrest and the fact that I don't think I'd make it long in Venezuela or Sudan, I'm just gonna kinda roll well, and because I want to start creating an atmosphere of unity, I'm going to always speak my heart when it comes to issues, but I will refrain from political slurs, and I encourage you to as well, because we're really at a tipping point and a dangerous one, and I'm fearful for the world. I'm fearful for the country. Um, and it's really time to try to reach out and take a hand. It's really time to stop saying, I'm never going to forgive anybody, and figure out human nature and look at the political situation and think of the world you want to live in. And I don't want a world where anyone's yelling F anybody. I don't like it. I've done it myself. But at the rally, I'm like, there's children here. I went to rallies with my parents, and I don't recall the profanity back when they were protesting Vietnam, and I was riding on shoulders and such. But let's tone it down while stepping it up. And stepping it up, I think, means taking our own personal health and our community health and security very important. And importantly, important. I don't know if that sentence even made sense, frankly. It's been a week of where I've just found myself standing on the porch, just like shaking and tearing up in fear for my country, for the world, seeing that everything, like the reality that we're not going back, that we're going to have to work with what we've got. Well, there's a parallel there, I guess, to being a sexual assault survivor. We can't undo it, but we can work forward from here. And I did an introduction last week, which I did not chop up in any parts like I did was supposed to. Instead, I was gonna. Ugh, I'm going to do it this week though. So the introduction and today, the S in Spades will be there. Again, I'm Linda Kay Gifford. I founded Sweet Survivor, and I myself am a childhood sexual assault survivor, grooming and assault. Um, I talk in my book about how it's so important, of course, to stop sex trafficking and these glamorously perverted sex rings. It's just sickening. But I don't want it to distract from the fact that your backyard, in your community, on your street, statistically speaking, I usually screw up statistically. I was that kid that had to go to class for us as the special class. I was a special class kid. So yes, I lisp a little bit and I really try not to. So anyway, let's just get that out of the way right up top. I'm mildly dyslexic and I lisp a little bit, but I'm a neurolinguistic practitioner, a survivor myself, and I wrote a book called Call It Assault, which is out for peer review right now. It's like in the links. It just got massively changed and updated today. Not massively, but I rewrote the consent section. Thank you, Joyce. Joyce Short, the founder of the Consent Awareness Network, who initially reached out to me and thanked me for what I was doing with Sweet Survivor as a resource provision, but asked me to talk about consent laws. And she has taught me the importance of knowing that consent is a freely given, knowledgeable, informed agreement. That is the definition that we can take. We can take it to the courts. We can take it to the courts. And we need to lift statutes of limitations. A huge part of my book was redacted, we'll say, removed, because I cannot, without risking libel or slander, say anything that would let someone deduce who my assailant was, which means removing all the attachments, all the familial attachments, all the not an immediate family member, but there's attachments that matter. And I am silenced, and we are all silenced, whether you've been sex trafficked by Epstein or just abused by a neighbor down the block or your own family. We have got to move forward. And the way to do that is to realize the shame is not yours and consent matters. And once you understand what consent is and define it, a freely given, knowledgeable, informed agreement, once you define it, then you can go, okay, I was a child. Was I knowledgeable? No. Was I informed? No. Those of us who didn't fight back, but were groomed into just getting used to performing sexual acts and keeping quiet about it for all the reasons we're going to talk about today. We may run long today. I'm going to try not to. I'm trying to keep these under half an hour, but we've got to bang right through the chapters. And I just want to start with to help yourself remove shame from you and put it on the perpetrator. Just remember and think about it. Were you knowledgeable? Were you informed? Were you capable? If you were under the legal age, unfortunately, in your state, like it's a legal matter, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. But we do have age distinctions. And if you are under that age, you are automatically not capable of giving consent because a child cannot consent to have sex with an adult. It's not a thing. So I just myself, it took me a long time to realize that I wasn't also guilty. It wasn't some kind of love affair. It wasn't like I was happy. It wasn't like I wanted it to happen. But I also, in not telling, in accepting it, and not understanding grooming, not understanding dissociation, and all the things that reprocessing has done to open pathways quickly for me to go, oh, boom, I was a kid. All these things I've been packing around for decades literally get thrown right out the window. I say one moment of awareness is all it takes on all kinds of levels. And like I said last week, if you watched, um, think of that one teacher who said the one thing. Think of the person that got you into the thing you do because they said, you're good at that, or encouraged you in some way. It could be a parent, a preacher, anybody. That moment of awareness changes your life. And what I love about finally facing my fears and getting off of the freaking traditional medicine trip, uh, and actually found almost instantaneous cure for a whole lot of the things wrong with me. Now I still dissociate. I developed my system so long ago. At least we're all talking to each other now, except for Rage. Rage paces around and throws barbs, but Busy and me and Little Girl interchange. Um, I haven't found a way to combine them, nor have I tried. I don't see the point in that. They've served me well, and I've learned to use them to serve me situationally. So while I'm still picking alters, we're kind of all doing it together, and it's more like a leaning than a switch. Because the switch, okay, I'm getting way ahead of myself. That's the P in spades. We are on the first S in spades. And so we'll do the P, separating the past from the present, next Wednesday. Hopefully at 3, but whenever I can get here, because there are priorities in life. And unfortunately, I'm trying to make this one, but people come first. So apologize for being late, but it was a people thing, a person thing. So anyway, let's start with my book. I've run these workshops, but never out of my own book. It's pretty exciting to me. The first lesson, spades. The shame is not yours. And I'm going to quote Nikita Gill, who said, "My mother once told me that a healed woman who rejects shame is seen as defiant and terrifying by a world who wants her to sacrifice everything she could be on the altar of men." Boom, boom, mic drop. I don't even need to interpret that. So I'm going to consult my own book. I usually go off the top of my head, and I still pretty much will, but I start with toxic shame. And another quote here that's important, I think. Irene Lyon is a trauma recovery specialist, and she talks about disgust and the importance of feeling your disgust. And that's counterintuitive because we're trying usually not to. We've spent our whole lives trying not to feel our disgust for ourselves or others, or hating on the other while also simultaneously hating on ourselves. And you would think, I don't want to feel disgust. I'm trying to get rid of that. But you need to. You need to. It's like a friend of mine wrote a song that I cut on my CD. It's free. Download, check it out. Um, and he says, "You can't grow crops without the rain. You can't feel pleasure unless you've had some pain." And while it'd be lovely to live in a world where none of us had any pain, here we are in the club nobody wanted to be in. So let's just move ahead. Let's just work with what we've got. And starting with cognitively tell yourself everything I just said. Shame is not yours. You were young. You were not culpable. You were not knowledgeable, informed. You were not even capable of what you were doing and what was being done to you. And the grown-ups in the room are supposed to act like grown-ups in the room. So if a grown-up in the room was not, it's not on you because you acquiesced. And that's a big one for me, the ripped off the street, forced into sex slavery. That's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level. But those of us who just got eased into sexual relationships over years that all started out wonderful and ended up in what the hell is going on land that ended up in dissociation and shame. It's like we have to remember, back to the top, feel that disgust and think about s- this happening to somebody else, and then realize that you are that somebody else. To the rest of us, you are that somebody else who didn't deserve what happened and is not at all to blame. So separating the past from the present, super important next week. But right now, let's just keep thinking about the fact that the shame is not ours. And I already talked about statutes of limitations. Literally looking in my book. It's so freaky to have a book. It's not quite out, as in launched out, but the peer review just finished. And Joyce Short pointed out that I had got some things in consent. I had worded them and understood them incorrectly, and worded some other things that were misleading. So I filled out the consent section. If you've read it, you should go back and look through anything that has to do with consent and laws because it's been clarified, slightly expanded. And anyway, so I'm going to move on to the self-worth because oh, the lack of self-worth just spills over into everything. You'll hear me say it 1,000 times, from the boardroom to the bedroom. The way we respond to other people is, what's the word, tempered by our own lack of self-worth. So we tend to acquiesce like we did in childhood. We tend to people please. We tend to not ask for the raise. We tend to accept bad behavior in relationships, and that's a big one we're going to get way into. Really need a week for each of these. And I'm going to do a workshop where we do a week on each of the letters in spades. But this is an 8-week overview. So just realize that, like I say, we often feel worthless and either wallow in depression and avoidance or mask and attempt perfection in all we do. I went that route. I did a great job, and doing a great job at whatever you do is important, but untethered perfectionism can cause us to overlook or tolerate others' bad behavior and we try to make everything right for everyone but ourselves. And it's time that you realize that it is not selfish to live life the way you want, to be treated the way you want, because you can't give honestly to another human being if you aren't receiving from that human being in equal measure. If you're not reciprocating, your relationship is a commodity driven thing. It's a transactional thing. And I don't will that on anybody. I would never stay with anybody because of something they can provide. And I always say one thing you should do and strive for. You can't get there immediately depending on your situation, but start setting your life up to where no one can pull the rug out from under you. If you're married, make sure you're on the house. Seriously, you'd be shocked at, I don't know the number offhand, but it's like tens of digits. It's in the, I'm going to say conservatively 40 to 80% of women don't have their names on the titles of the homes they're living in or the cars they're driving. If you don't want the rug to be taken out from under you, own the rug. So work towards that. Work towards autonomy. That doesn't mean you need to go it alone. It just means know that you can go it alone. I don't go it alone. My partner does a lot of the heavy lifting so that I can do this. And if something happened, I could go alone. I have that confidence now. And I kind of always did because I was a single mom who's been married and divorced 3 times. I didn't have the confidence, but I knew I could do it because I had to. So I guess a better way to say that is I've developed the confidence by doing. And I want that for you. I want that for you. Anyway, don't accept the things that you can change. I guess it's kind of biblical there. Don't accept things you can change them. And if you can't, move along. Accept the things you cannot change doesn't mean stick around and be treated badly. I mean, some patriarchal people get a hold of it and want you to believe that. If your husband hit you, you probably deserved it. This whole trend back towards women's rights being stripped, bodily autonomy being legally taken away, it is terrifying to me. But back to shame, under and overachieving. I write about under and overachieving because we kind of go either way. I think that most people I've met who are childhood sexual assault survivors, who are what I would call high functioning CSA survivors or type 3s, there's type 1, 2, and 3 in the book. We'll get to that. They're actively working for change. They know what happened to them. They know the shame is not theirs. They're still going to have their moments. They're going to have their triggers. They're going to have to work. There's no survivor graduation day, unfortunately. I can't tell you that. But there is a survivor support group, and there is a way to minimize and learn how to pull out of triggers. And it starts with placing the blame back to the top. I do that a lot. Back to the top. The shame is not yours. So put it where it belongs. And we end up either trying so hard or not trying at all. Under and overachieving. We think that if we were like better, if we were something that, like, whatever all those other girls, women have that we don't. I think, like, everyone's got something I don't. What is it? Why is she so beautiful? How does she carry herself? Why why am I such a freak? Why does everyone think, like, I am strange when I walk in the door? Like, I just this chatter has run through my head for so long until I reprocessed. I still get a little of it. It'll always start, but then I shut it down now. And in the past, instead of shutting it down, I would either not go out at all or drink enough that I didn't care anymore and just let the inhibitions down, which leads to a whole lot of other bad stuff, such as hypersexuality, which we talk about in my book too. Forgive yourself if you became, okay, I don't even want to call it becoming hypersexual because I would never have considered myself hypersexual. But I also was a person that didn't want to sleep with a bunch of people. I wanted a serious relationship. And while I don't think I slept with a bunch of people, I think that several of the ones I did sleep with in a period after getting out of my assailant situation and on to college and all was just throwing the inhibition away, but still believing in my heart of hearts somehow that maybe this person will love me. Maybe they will love me. And then it led with sex. And they never love you for long if it leads with sex. I just think it's a really bad way to start. I highly encourage you to never, never, never jump into a relationship with someone just because they're hot, just because you're hot. That's cool. That means, would you like to have coffee when we're sober? I want to see how you treat the waitress. I hope your mother calls. I want to see how you talk to her. I want to know if you kick puppies. I want to know your politics. So, you know, don't be misled by initial attraction. That being said, it has to be there. Don't be misled by trinkets, baubles, and promises either. What you need to do is nothing, literally nothing. Be yourself. And I talk about in the D in spades, don't wait to feel okay to be okay. I'll never feel like I'm a normal girl. I don't think I ever will. I wish I could tell you that I would. I wish that like, yay, be like me, a normal girl now. It doesn't work that way. I've still got three of me in here talking, and I still have triggers, but in learning how to pull out of them, and in learning, basically ingraining in myself that the shame is not mine anymore. It never was. You know, I was not capable of giving consent. And back to a freely given, knowledgeable, informed agreement. Please vote to have statutes of limitations lifted in your state if they haven't been already for childhood sexual assault survivors, because we don't process this, we don't understand it. It takes getting away from it. It takes seeing children. For me, I had a huge breakthrough years ago when, before therapy even, but when a 9 and 11-year-old daughters of a friend were came out to my house in the country, and they were like, I was teaching them things in the garden. And I looked at them and I realized this is right before it began. This is right when it was beginning. You know, a year from now, she'll be given blowjobs if she was me. And I'm like, there's nothing those my friend's daughters could do as 9 and 11-year-olds that they are responsible for. And I got it. And I got it. So I want that moment of awareness for you too. Pardon, I do get emotional. I don't want to drug my emotions away. Those are like, take a pill. It's like, no, that's where they go wrong too. And we talk about that a lot in Ask for What You Want, the longest chapter in the book. It's like so many chapters, longest subchapters, because asking for what you want becomes the key. As I started to say earlier, selfishness is the key, is the path to selflessness, because only in receiving truly and feeling great about that can you give truly, because you're receiving truly and feeling great about that. And then it cycles, and then people actually do live happily ever after. It happens. I know several people who do. I did not. I seem to be right now, and I plan to be now that I've learned so much. And I blamed a lot on my exes, and y'all still guilty. You know who you are of much of it. But I blame a lot on me too, because I didn't have the skills then to talk to them. I didn't have the skills to express myself. I didn't even tell him I was a childhood sexual assault survivor. I told my second husband, and then I told him, and then it became public because he told a friend who told everybody, thought everybody knew. So, through the grapevine. Nobody had bad intentions, but the shame overwhelmed me. I could hardly speak to anybody at shows. I'd like come into back play, go out, smoke it up in the green room. Like, oh my God, you can't really drink and play the flute. You got to get the dugga and tucka in there. But anyway, forgive yourself if there was a period, for any sexual encounters you've had that you regret. We all have, most of us have. Um, it happens. It happens to people who are childhood sexual assault survivors too. We just take it harder. I shouldn't say that because I'm not one of them. I apologize. Um, we take it hard. I take it hard in thinking of the memory because I'm on my own ass so much with the hyper perfection and the hyper vigilance that comes along with trying to prove that you're perfect, prove that you're not flawed. I've been trying to prove that I am not flawed my entire life. I'm still trying to prove I'm not flawed. I admit it. I am also trying to stop trying to prove that I'm not flawed. I'm working on it. That's a place I'm at. We're all where we are. So let's see. Is there anything in my chapter that I wanted to say? Oh, I'm gonna just quote myself. If you play the hop in bed with virtual strangers game, you up the ante that they are of the ill intent variety, or at least they're probably just as reckless and emotionally unreliable as you. My apologies. At this post escape time of your life, and you may be headed for a potential explosion down the road. So just don't do it. Just take your time. Pardon the tissue. But it's better than a trail of snot. I'm pretty sure. And on that note, know that I'm not judging anybody for what they do, what they choose to do. If you like doing what you do, by all means, do it. I'm talking to people who have been or are involved in things they really don't want to do with people sexually, but feel that they have to do to keep them or for some other reason. If you've got a 3 to 9 some and whatever, if you do you, if you're truly happy, I am not here to judge. That's why in my book, I am tried to only say they, them, and partner, even referring to my own husband, because I don't want to disenfranchise anybody. I don't want to disenfranchise anybody because that's another level of shame. We've got shame buckets coming down us from everywhere. We don't need to add them to the pile. We don't need to dump them on each other. That's for sure. So anyway, just do that. Just try to a you're a kid, or even if you weren't and involved in something that you wish you hadn't been, move along. Move along. You're human. If you were a kid, then it was a crime. Then it was a crime and it was done to you. You didn't do it. And wrapping up, just know that uh how do I want to wrap up? I'm suck at wrapping up, obviously. Let me back up. Is there anything I want to say here? Um, you know what? I want to quote the crappy childhood fairy. That's what I want to do. Anna Runkle. You should. check it out. It's not sexual assault specific, but she does go there. It's usually at those who had sexual assault at the worst end of the statistical, but no, she's really great. She's calming, she's peaceful, she survived a tumultuous childhood, um, and she's a CPTSD coach, and I listen to her. It's a good jumping off point, especially if you weren't sexually assaulted, but you do have complex post-traumatic stress from, say, living with alcoholic or abusive parents or in poverty or growing up in a war zone, no matter how great your parents were. There's a lot of ways to have complex post-traumatic stress syndrome. And Anna Runkle says take at least 2 months before you go to bed with somebody, before you have sex with somebody, have some coffee, have some dinner. And she doesn't say this, but I do. Get them drunk. Not you, though. That's terrible, and that's the thing I'll get slammed down for, I know I will, but I want to see somebody drunk. I wanna see how they behave when they're drunk, because I have had, someone turn into a monster, and so, I'm not saying get them drunk, but go somewhere they're gonna be drunk and observe, and be sure before you let it's so great to feel things. If your stuff's tingling and I actually want to do this, yay for you. Now go have some coffee and think about it. Okay? The shame is not yours. We're going to separate the past from the present next week. And you can go back and look at that intro. It's on, YouTube, Library Lives. So, I'm Linda Kay Gifford, and I will talk to you over a cup of coffee if I really like you. Bye.